A lot of folks have a lot of questions about what are some of the essential elements behind a power of attorney. And there's one interesting thing about a power of attorney that we always run into, which is perhaps one of the biggest misconceptions about a power of attorney. So this segment of the program, we wanted to spend some time talking about what a power of attorney is, first and foremost, some of the things you need to sort of consider if you're about ready to make a power of attorney, along with some of the different characteristics or traits that you may see in a power of attorney depending upon which type of one that you have created. So welcome back to Dollars and Cents, where we help you make sense out of all of life's decisions involving your dollars. We're Central Florida's longest running radio program, coming to you on a variety of networks, welcoming in our audience over on the Space Coast, just started broadcasting on 92.7 WMMB over there as well. Of course, we're on News Radio WFLA Orlando, along with 96.9 The Game here in Central Florida. So we're sort of fully covered here geologically, and the reality is we're also, I guess, covered globally when it comes to our podcast and our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in catching our podcast, be sure to subscribe or find us on your favorite podcast service of choice. Just look us up under Nelson Financial Planning. That, of course, means that I am Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning. I'm a certified financial planner, certified financial fiduciary at Nelson Financial Planning, where our team of certified financial fiduciary stands ready this week to help you change your life with a successful and cost-effective financial plan. So, first of all, what is a power of attorney, and where do you typically kind of see it into play? Well, power of attorney is basically a legal document, right? I mean, it's not something that you would typically see written on, an index card. It's a legal document. It requires a notarization. And so what it does is, at the end of the day, when you sign a power of attorney, you are giving someone else the ability to act just like you in whatever the circumstances that you have outlined in the power of attorney. And we'll get to some of those circumstances. So you can have a broad one, a limited one, a specific one, or a general one. We're going to get to all of those distinctions here in a little bit, but just conceptually understand that a power of attorney really is a document that allows someone to act as you under the circumstances prescribed in the power of attorney. So when would that be good to have? When would that be effective? Well, the reality is, like, if you were all of a sudden became incapacitated and somebody needed to make financial decisions. Generally, a power of attorney is thought of as more of a financial or business related type of document. There are other things like a health care surrogate that sort of operates the same way, but it's related to health related decisions. So when you think power of attorney, think business stuff, think day-to-day life stuff, writing checks, balancing the checking account, purchasing a home, purchasing real estate, purchasing an investment, any of that stuff. That would be where a power of attorney would come into play. Now, obviously, if this legal document gives somebody else the ability to act just like you, there's some important considerations to consider on that, right? First and foremost, okay, trust but verify, right? The reality is that if you're going to appoint somebody, make sure it is somebody that you really do know and trust very well, because they're going to be able to operate just like you, and that is going to be legally binding. If they sign a contract or something like that, that is a legally binding document if they've signed it pursuant to a power of attorney. So make sure that whoever you name, you really do know that person well, and ultimately you trust that person. Once you've signed the document, tell others that you've signed it. One of the troubling things that can sometimes happen is that all of a sudden someone shows up at the office and waving a power of attorney. Oh, I've got a power of attorney. And we've got a specific procedure in place where the power of attorney has to be within a certain period of time. It can't be some power of attorney from 20 odd years ago, because the reality is that a power of attorney can easily be undone by signing another power of attorney. So it's important that you tell people that you've signed a power of attorney, and also tell people when you sign another one. It's one of those things that you've got to make sure that folks are fully updated on it, because the reality is that if you change it and someone walks around with the old one, then you may have somebody operating as you, and you don't really want that person operating as you anymore. So that certainly is something to make sure that you share that with folks. The reality is too, go with someone you know, go with someone that you trust, because all too often in today's world, there's a lot of people wandering around out there that burst on the scenes and say, oh, I'm here to help, and the reality is they might not be. So if you're going to sign a power of attorney, trust but verify. Make sure it's someone that you know, that's been around a long time, and make sure folks that would typically be the ones that would have to deal with the power of attorney, like your financial advisor, your business partner, those types of things, those would have to be the folks that would need to know about the power of attorney. So good to inform them of that along the way. So certainly some important consideration as you're making that power of attorney. Next up, here's and I want to really highlight this. There's one thing about power of attorneys that is perhaps the one thing that sort of nobody knows, or everybody sort of gets confused about. And the reality is that a power of attorney stops, is invalid, does not exist, is immaterial once someone passes away. All too often people say, oh, well, I've got a power of attorney, but they passed last week. And the answer is the power of attorney is done. The power of attorney has no more validity once someone passes. It is intended to be a document that allows someone to act as you, but you got to be alive in order to have someone act as you. So the reality is, and people all the time get confused on this, power of attorney, throw it out, shred it, burn it. If that person dies that gave the power of attorney, then your job is done. There's nothing more to be done on that. So what are some of the specifics about a power of attorney? Well, it can be a general one, or it can be a specific one. Obviously general, much broader. You may not want to have someone have the ability to do everything. Open up investment accounts, change beneficiaries on policies, enter into contracts, enter into leases, borrow money, all of that. You may not want them to have that general power, which means that you may want a specific one. Another distinction is, do you want that to be a durable one, or do you want that to be a springing one? Durable means that when you sign the document, that's it. That power of attorney, that power has been granted, and ultimately that person can start acting you right now. From the second you sign that person can act as you. So maybe you don't want a durable one. Maybe you want a springing one, which means that they have to prove that you're incapacitated, and that's the way that the document that they will be able to act in your place. Now, again, pros and cons on that, right? Because if it's a springing one, then you got to go through the process of proving incapacity. That can take some time if folks need to operate. So just understand that the difference between general versus specific, the difference between durable versus springing, all of those are important distinctions to note when you are crafting a power of attorney, because you can have a lot of different versions of a power of attorney that may or may not be applicable to the particular situation that you're looking for. So just know those different aspects of the power of attorney and how that all plays out. Power of attorney, important document to have, because it helps with managing financial affairs if you are not of correct capacity to be able to do that. But just understand that there's some pitfalls along the way as well. With that, we'll take a break and return here on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris of Nelson Financial.